Welcome back to the program. Eze Onyekbere is joining me right now. He's a fiscal governance expert. Welcome to the program.
My pleasure.
Let's get started. Let me get your views about what's been happening, at least in the last few weeks. Let's start with the finance minister's scenario. She really laid down the scenarios at the National Assembly just a few days ago, giving us option 1 and option 2 in terms of what we need to do, perhaps taking subsidy we're not taking. What I'm trying to say in essence is that she really painted the picture that where Nigeria's finances are. What are your views on that?
Well, I think that picture is aptly captured in the medium-term expenditure framework 2023-2025, as well as the fiscal strategy paper. So I think she came to the National Assembly to explain the contents to the members of the National Assembly to put a face to what she's already written down. Now, if you look at those scenarios, they are very gloomy. None of them is a scenario that anybody can laugh over. The first scenario she painted was to continue fuel subsidy until the government, this current government, leaves in June next year, which is what they've already done. They suspended some provisions of the PIA, which will have ensured that subsidy was removed as soon as the PIA kicked in, and said they're postponing the implementation until they leave power by June next year. And then the second scenario was about doing a little in relation to the subsidy. So I think none of those scenarios is something anybody should be happy about. And there could be other scenarios not aptly captured in what the Honorable Minister is proposing that we should think of how do we get that done. I think the critical challenge is a question of capacity and willingness. If you combine two of them to be able, you are willing, you are competent, you are able to do something, then once you have that picture in terms of the leadership of the Nigerian economy, then we can begin to talk in details about proposals of what to do and what not to do. Evidently, the current managers of the economy are simply raising their hands in the air. They are simply saying, oh, it is my right, it's my turn to occupy this space called the space of fiscal management or economic management. But they are not doing what they should do for us to be able to at least stop the bleeding, because Nigeria is like a very big accident victim, all right? So if an accident victim, you meet him, you first of all give him first aid. You stop the bleeding, bandage him or her, before you take him to the orthopedic expert or the orthopedic surgeon or the heart expert or whoever that will now do the actual work. And that's what I had expected this administration to do. But rather, they are postponing the evil day. The unfortunate thing is that the situation may go so critical that before the Nigerian economy gets wheeled into maybe whoever is taken next, the doctor will simply tell you, we have only 30% chance of the victim surviving. The other 70%, the victim may go. So whatever you see, you take. That means whoever is going to take over will have to face a lot of critical questions and provide answers to them in the next 1 or 2 months after as soon as the person is sworn in. Otherwise, the economy will simply collapse on the face of the person, if it's not already collapsed by now.
So I like the points you raised, and I think that also corroborated with my intro earlier on in terms of the question of what we should be seeking answers to. I think everybody should really, it's an emergency situation.
The government is postponing the hard decisions because of crude politics. And those hard decisions should have been made so many years ago. We refuse to make them. Even at this critical point, it's still being postponed. And part of it is this issue about subsidy or no subsidy. And it's become complicated. I hear people talk about, most times you talk about this, oh, IMF, World Bank tells you to do A or B. The IMF and World Bank are there on their own, okay? It is only when you mismanage your house, okay, mismanage your family resources, that an outsider will now come to tell you, oh, do this or do that. But if you're managing your house well, you're not complaining to anybody, nobody is going to come to make prescriptions for you. But then at the end of the day, the country belongs to us. How we run it, how we manage it, will ultimately tell on Nigerians, not on any foreigner. And that big decision that should have been made is the decision of fuel subsidy. And there are two components of it. If you don't introduce enough transparency and accountability into the entire oil sector, whether it is the subsidy, purported subsidy, or whether it is the losses, shorting, or the money that is being stolen, as if to say, the crude oil that is being produced and nobody is accounting for. So these are hard decisions, and nobody is better positioned to make it than a president who is also a minister of petroleum resources, and constitutionally the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, to whom all agencies, whether it's the Navy, whether it's NIMASA, whether it's civil defense or police, report to. And so the earlier that decision is made, the more our chances of climbing out, maybe in the next couple of years, out of the hole we are in. The hole we are in, we may not climb out of it in the next 1 year. It will take a couple of years, but the earlier we start, the better.
The significant hole, not even significant, the glaring hole that we're in now is the whole of fuel subsidy, which everyone is talking about. Are there other holes that we're in?
Yeah, the fuel subsidy hole is there. The crude oil theft hole is there. Then the stealing of public resources, unabated, the bleeding of the public treasury is there. Read the Auditor General's reports over the years, including the last report that was released. And of course, we all know the high-profile cases which are still, in the public domain, the Accountant General's recent stuff. And so there are quite a number of holes, even some resources, monies that are there that nobody is properly accounting for their use. So at the end of the day, of course, we have the Rosanye Committee report and some of the issues that are rising out of it. So there are so many holes that could be plugged for us to stop the bleeding and think of how we can get out. So it's not just one, or it's not just two. And if you quantify all these holes, they are in trillions of naira. There is also the tax waivers, okay? The tax waivers to companies that shouldn't get, tax expenditure, that shouldn't get it. If I do the analysis, we did an analysis sometime about 1.5 years ago. In one of those particular years, which is also detailed in the last one, it was clear that in that particular year, I think it was about 2020 or thereabout, we are coming in with about federal revenue of about 5 trillion or thereabout. And the tax waivers, 4 to 5 trillion, and the tax waivers were also in that region. So you are entitled to a revenue of 8 trillion in all. You collect only 4 and waive 4, or you collect only 3 point something and waive almost 5. And most of those that we are getting these waivers, we are not qualified in the first instance. For instance, the Pioneer Status Tax Holiday, what is a hotel in Abuja? What value are they bringing to the table to qualify them, a new hotel, for tax waiver? We are not discussing the Hilton or the old. In Abuja that has excessive hotel rooms, hotel halls, or all kinds of stuff. What value? But hotels in Abuja got. Are you still talking of pioneer status for the oil industry that started since how many years ago, before some of us were born? Okay, so this has been abused several times. And if you sit down and start analyzing where we can get this money, we could simply have a projection to say, in accordance with the Fiscal Responsibility Act, it says that if you must give a waiver, what do? Do your projection and analysis to show that waiver, the money we are going to lose, is not going to be a burden on the Treasury on paying for the normal running of government, paying for recurrent expenditure, paying for overheads, paying for capital expenditure. And then, if you can't do that, you show us countervailing measures, alternative places from where you get money, not existing money, to plug the deficit. In the event you are saying, waive 4 trillion. The question will be, if you waive 4 trillion, where are you getting the money from? Because some of us have suggested that the law and policy should be rigid. You don't allow the Minister of Finance or a few people in the executive, the President, to have the sole responsibility of waiving trillions. It should come like the MTF in a policy paper to say, we have proposed, the executive says, we have proposed so-so companies for tax expenditure, what a total of 4 trillion. All right? It comes as an appendix to the MTF. Company A, reason for doing that. Company B. Then the elected representatives of the people in the legislature will now sit and vet it, and maybe come forward with a policy that we should not give away more than a cap of between 20 and 30%. If you ask me, not more than 25% of our income in any year should be given out. All right? So that when you have a cap on that tax expenditure, I can very well tell you that you could possibly be getting between 2 and 3 trillion extra, either between the federal government and the federal government alone. When you do that and then you crunch your numbers, the ones we talked about, 400,000 barrels of crude oil. I mean, I was watching the program before this where the president of Pengasson was saying they want to take action. Now, a labor union is now trying to take action. Is now trying to organize rallies because of what they see is happening. Now, why are the elected representatives of the people, either Mr. President or those in the National Assembly, keeping quiet? You heard the other day when the Director of Customs and the NNPC were throwing more than themselves. You know, if it was an outsider or somebody like you or me, it would be easy to dismiss and say, oh, they're talking rubbish, they're always trying to attack government.
But they are not being dismissed.
Yeah, but the issue, critical questions were raised.
Yes.
If you are trucking out, you say we use 68 million liters every day. Why are you trucking out 98 or 90 something, about 35 million liters extra? Now the question is, do you, Nancy, fill your tank on a daily basis?
Not
if
exactly.
you fill your tank on a Monday, you may not go back there until around Friday, Saturday. Yes. The people who fill on a daily basis may be long-distance drivers and truckers. You are moving from Lagos to the east or to Kano. Therefore, by the time you get to, before you even get to Kano, you may need to refuel. So these are the people. And what percentage of the population, or in terms of usage, are these kind of drivers and vehicles? So these things are becoming clear. The more people shout that the people in an NPC are mismanaging the resources and stealing it, the more silence we get from the highest authorities. Because when somebody is frontally accused, not by one person, not by the second person, you have to call him in and put another person there and watch what comes in to know who is cheating who.
But the NNPC did say, even from the statement, I analyzed this, was it last week? I did a full analysis on all those things we're talking about. The NNPC did say, oh, that they don't fear any forensic audit and they are open.
No, you see, before you even get to a forensic audit like the one they did in Niger Delta, which up till today, nobody has seen the report, which will take, if you start a forensic audit, Buhari will leave and they're still telling stories. Now, these are simple, what the Director of Customs said was simple common sense. You see, let's not make anything esoteric. And I've always said it. If in the days the economy was working before 2015, we were doing 35 million liters.
Exactly, which I said last Monday.
Factory closures, highest unemployment rate in the world, which means more companies have closed. 2 recessions.
Yeah. Unemployment higher.
Poverty
deeper.
Everywhere. The insecurity has even prevented ordinary farmers from going to the farm.
So how many more cars do we now have?
What has happened to almost double the figure?
Yes, exactly.
Before you even go
those
to
are the questions I asked.
Use common sense. And then join it with the question asked by the Director of Customs, whether people refill every day. Okay? By the time you do it, in law, there's what is called a prima facie case. Okay? 2 of you were in this room. You were in this room with somebody. And it's established that only 2 of you were here. And by the time you come out, something has happened. People are bound. You are the first person to be asked, what happened to this? So you will be the first one to be asked, and then your explanation will determine. So there's a prima facie case against an NPC and those running the economy, or those running the oil sector. Now, we hold them responsible. And if in the investigations we find out that it's true, we know what to do. But the case is overwhelming, left, right, and center. That alone is another 2-3 trillion back to the Federation account for sharing. You can begin to name it one after the other, so that by the end of the day, what we may need to borrow, we may not be looking for 10-11 trillion. We may only be looking for 2 or 3 trillion, and that 2 trillion, we'll know where it is going straight. If it is in the power sector, you now say, okay, we are buying this 3 trillion, we are doing 5,000 megawatts every day. We must begin to, benchmark, fix indicators for what we are doing. I am building an extra 1,000 megawatt capacity. It will take me 9 months, 1 year. So if I borrow this money by September, by July next year, we will see a brand new plant with extra 1,000 megawatts capacity. Or the transmission company of Nigeria is still under federal government's care. The wheeling capacity, most times, if you put that 5,000 megawatts, it will collapse. You bring the indicators to show that the wheeling capacity now is 3,000 or 4,000 megawatts. By the time I put down this extra $1 billion, I will increase the wheeling capacity by an extra 1,500 megawatts. And these are things that are verifiable that anybody can see. Rather than, there's this impression, go and borrow, put it into a bottomless pit, into a basket, a leaking basket, and then it will disappear from there. Nobody will know where it went. While you were reading the news, I was listening about the money the World Bank claimed they disbursed for some watershed programs or from climate change programs.
$700 million.
$700 million. Where is that money? Can anybody pinpoint in good conscience where that money is? That's why I always canvass for what I call some cross-cutting fundamental principles and norms in running Nigeria's economy. And what are those fundamental principles and norms? The first is transparency. The second is accountability. These two, you can't remove them. For instance, the Debt Management Office, if you get to their website, you just get one page showing all the federal government is owing, its division into local and external, what the states are owing. Then you draw a line, 100 billion. You don't even put the ways and means, which is about $20 billion.
There's no ways and means there, but they will get you. Get like Japan, China, all
then
those.
You get Japan, China, this. But there are no details
on the projects.
On the projects. What did Japan give you? 1 billion. On which project? You say it is an erosion control or watershed project.
So that we can verify it.
Where exactly are these projects located? Is it the state government that is doing it? Is it the federal government? Is it the local government? So that people can go out on their way to see them. All you see is just massive figures. So every year, World Bank will tell you what they have gained. JICA will tell you what they have done. But nobody beyond the Debt Management Office, the Minister of Finance, and the happy civil servants who are managing it, because nobody is looking at them, nobody is holding them accountable. Even the National Assembly.
But even the budget office, how about the budget office? Because even in every budget, of course, there's a new budget that will come up now. We should see it, okay, this is what the government is proposing should be built with 20 billion naira stuff and all like. But we've also seen what's been happening with Nigeria's budget in the past years, because you see like the same items are almost there.
Repeating.
Yes.
So like I'm saying, even the National Assembly does not take time to call out these MDs to say, what exactly are you doing?
Would you totally say that they don't call them? Because I think even the committee, House Committee on Finance, have been calling the agencies. Okay.
I'm talking of this board.
But some of those agencies will not even honor their invitation.
No. But they have powers to drag them before, their committees. And they are supposed to be working like a value chain. What is happening in that National Assembly in terms of the investigations and these issues that are revealed should be the basic facts for the EFCCs and the ICPCs, or even the police and their fraud units to begin to work, to begin to dig deeper. Because these questions are becoming extremely childish. They're becoming extremely childish. The other day we were told that our ship was seen in Equatorial Guinea. After it had loaded, evaded Nimasa, evaded Navy, evaded everybody, and then somebody else caught it and brought it back to Nigeria. And we start pretending that all is normal. It's not for this man to come here and say, oh, they even found some containers inside the church and inside the mosque. I mean, that's pedestrian.
That's for the GCEO of NNPC Limited.
You found jerry cans. It's the problem we are discussing about Yahoo boys than chasing the real criminals and thieves. Yeah, you just Yahoo boys, but that shouldn't be the overwhelming. Your house is not on fire and you're busy chasing rats. Somebody steals billions of dollars every month. We are not getting to the root of it. We're only chasing young boys with 15. I'm not saying they should steal. Oh, he stole $15,000. You now make a picture in front of him and then put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook, and maybe put it on Nancy Lowe Live. We need to see people who stole billions with that picture. All right, so that's not the kind of thing. That's not what will bring our economy back. If you catch a guy that stole 1 billion, by the time you catch 5 of them, you have caught people who may help you to plug the yearly deficit.
Because so much, I was looking at numbers from the NUPRC, that is the Upstream Regulatory Authority, and they were saying, in fact, that Nigeria loses $4 billion to all theft every year.
Okay.
So imagine, that's actually the figures that came from the NUPRC. Now, if Nigeria loses that kind of money, $4 billion is not small money if you convert it, whether you use official
why I say it is
street rate.
You know why I say it is not
more?
True. It's more. Now, 400,000 barrels of crude oil by $10 gives you 4 million, right? By $100 it is doing today, you are talking about $40 million a day. $40 million a day, right? Times 30 days, in fact, which is 1 month. That's 1.2 billion. 1.2 billion times 12. No, okay. I said a day is $40 million.
Yes, $40 million, yeah.
Times 30 days in a month. That's $1.2 billion.
In a month.
In a month. Times 12. 1.2 times 12. What will it give you? It will give you about 14 point something billion. So this is the whole money from which Federation government will take, oil companies will take their share, and before sharing, I mean, the whole money will come up to 14. But Nigeria's share will still be substantial, so it cannot just be 4 billion. It's a joke. Okay. 4 billion is about a quarter. That's
with 400,000 barrels per day. Now, the last time the GCEO of NNPC Limited spoke, that was a few days ago when he spoke about those the oil and coal found in churches and all of that. He did mention, because I read his statement when he was talking, he did say that 700,000 barrels of crude oil is lost per day.
Wow. Are you sure what you had?
Yes, that's what he said. It's about
a quarter.
That's with 400,000. Yes, the figures keep changing.
So nobody is sure. We are not there with them. Now, a couple of days ago, I saw this video where a reporter, a journalist from either BBC or VOA, was in Saudi Arabia, and he was taken by their oil minister to their control room.
I saw that.
Something a little bigger
where
than
they
this,
monitor.
where they had about 240 computers. All the pipelines were on time, live, as including ships on the high sea. Ships carrying Saudi oil. They knew where they were in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the ocean. They knew the points. They were displaying it. They were budgeting for what they call real-time online monitoring of petroleum and gas infrastructure, which was supposed to be all the pipelines that they're complaining about today. And tens and hundreds of billions were voted for it. At some point, the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources said, we've done about 80 or 90% of this work. So where is that work that was done?
To monitor.
The minister and the NPC chair are now telling again, oh, we want to vote another money. So it is not rocket science. Between 2010 and 2014, that if we want to get this, including the ships carrying a liquefied petroleum gas, including those carrying a crude oil, we can, at any given point, stay in one place and monitor them. So these things are money. So it is not rocket science. That if we want to get this, including the ships carrying a liquefied petroleum gas, including those telling our stories. And that's why I'm saying there is a presumption when you are giving something to manage, and that thing keeps disappearing and stealing, and nobody is there with you. The presumption should be that you should be able to give us an account. If you are not giving us an account, please step aside, or you'll be forced to step aside, and another person comes in to manage, so that we can now do compare and contrast. Because what is happening, like I say, it is not something any reasonable government or even any reasonable set of people, because I'm even scared. You know what scares me? Nigerians are not really angry enough. Nigerians are like, it's like they don't understand what is happening.
Exactly.
Particularly the youths.
It's like, for me, I think, is it that they don't understand the import of what is happening, or they don't even know it in the first place, or I don't care attitude?
I can't even place an explanation. You know what I'm saying? The point is that particularly the youths, whose future is being imperiled. The other day, so many months after the ASU strike began, the NLC took to the streets in support of ASU strike. I'm not calling for any rebellion. I had expected the students whose future has been imperiled, who have been sitting at home, watching Big Brother Nigeria, watching Champions League, watching things. They sat back. They sat back. Those rallies were not joined. Imagine 1 million youths on the streets. Mr. President will have called for the ASU president to have a direct negotiation with him. They sat back. Whose future? Is it not their future? People are getting older. Those in their 60s and 70s, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, they'll be out of the picture. The money they are borrowing, it is these young men, some of them in the university, who will pay this money. Okay? So they are the people who should lead this discussion. They are the people who should say, I'm sorry, sir. We elected you, Mr. President. We appointed you GMD NMPC. You have failed, refused, and neglected to do your duty. Or you are participants criminals. There is evidence that you are complicit in the looting. So please, sir, you either stop it or something will give. It is time for Nigerians. It must get to that stage. Because all we are doing is that rather than do this kind of things, we face each other. Robbery will increase, kidnapping will increase. That's not going to solve anybody's problem.
This also gives us an ample opportunity as 2023 elections are coming, because in the last few weeks, for those that have been watching, I've tried to, because I was deeply worried, just like you said, that with what is happening, in fact, some of my friends that are covering political bits, there was an analysis I did last week on all of this. I broke down a lot of, okay, even the GDP, even what Minister Zainab said, and I started getting calls, even some met me physically, and I was like, Nancy, is this really bad? As you say. I was like, oh, so you guys don't even understand. Am I speaking too much English? That the politicians should be, is it really bad like this? That, are we broke? I was like, so what do we do here every day?
Good. Now, the question is, are the people who are contesting, particularly for the highest officer in the land, how many of them realize the depth of the rocks? I don't think. A good number of them appear to be like, there is some cake hidden somewhere which they want to come and share, forgetting that they are coming to clean up the mess and then start the process of baking a new cake afresh. So that's why we are interested in saying the days are gone when you want to be president of Nigeria, like they happened during the 2015-2019, you hide back and refuse to come to live debates or to live media sessions. And you write, some people are saying, oh, show me your manifesto. I say, excuse me. Yes, we want to see your manifesto. But most times, it's not the candidate. Most candidates don't have the presence of mind to write. You get some young men and women consultants, and they sit down to craft. And most times, after they've crafted it, the candidate does not even take time to sit down and read, to internalize it. That at the end of the day, when you see what they're doing when they get to power, which is a direct contrast to what is in that manifesto. So you must come out. The media must insist. Nigerians must insist. Like what happened the last time somebody was supposed to come, you send another. Those days are gone. If you cannot speak when you are begging us to give you a vote, what will happen when you get there? You will definitely not even organize any media session. It's like you are doing us a favor. The king wants to talk to his subjects. So I expect the media to be on that high alert to say, you must speak to us. I expect the young men and women of Nigeria, whose future is being in peril, to insist that we must begin to, these candidates must tell us what they want to do. I expect professional associations to raise the tempo. For instance, the last time the Bar Association, what they did, it was like a general discussion on Nigeria. Everybody was looking at the economy. I expect the Bar Association in the next couple of 1-2 months to call a special session focused on the administration of justice and the rule of law. I expect the Nigerian Medical Association to say these are the number of mothers dying every day in childbirth, maternal and child mortality. These are the figures. Our health indicators are one of the poorest in the world. Out-of-pocket expenditure is about 72% compared to 30%, which is the West African average. What are you going to do for health? Let's not talk politics. Let's not talk inflation. Discuss health. Yeah. I expect, even though as is troubling, they're having problems, I expect somebody in the education sector to say, tell us how you are going to resolve. Then I expect the Chambers of Commerce, Economic Summit Group, to have core days for these people to come and discuss inflation, capital importation, GDP growth, employment, trade, poverty reduction. These are the things we must grill them. Otherwise, we will end up having people who tell you, I will give you what, I will give you this thing, oh, go and print money. Some of them, even from what I'm reading, are almost suggesting we should go and employ more people for the mint. I wouldn't be surprised we have candidates who think that would be the solution.
Like Zimbabwe, print more money.
Employ more
and
people for the mint.
Okay, as we move along, because from all indications, what you said, definitely we are not financially responsible, and you've also alluded to the fact why we should be financially responsible at this time. Now, let's take a look at. I don't want us to go without taking a look at the duty to allowance breakdown. President Buhari approved it just a few days ago to take effect September 1. Do we have that? I'm actually looking at the wall. Yes. So let's get it, guys. Okay. We saw that that approval came from Mr. President, the duty to allowance breakdown. You can see there from grade level 1 to 4, 10,000 naira per DM. You can see that. Now, I did ask earlier before you came in, is it good but bad timing? Because a worker is also due his wage, and duty to allowances is actually what they earn when they like go outstation and all of that. So, but at this time,
yeah, this is not particularly fantastic. There's no big deal in this, but it's appearing in a time when ASU, for instance, been at home for so many months and nobody is saying anything concrete. It is not a good timing. It's creating the impression that the government is a bit insensitive to what is going on around it. And you even stopped at grade level 16, 17. You didn't bring that of ministers and the...
No, it's there.
Permanent
it's there. That's the next page.
Where is that? So those ones are...
Go ahead, guys. Yeah.
Okay, so you can
That's
see the
it.
70, 80,000. Yeah. So in essence, this is ill-timed, but I know for sure that the cost of living, cost of doing things has also drastically increased. But I don't think this is the appropriate time to do it in the face of the suffering that Nigerians are going through, in the face of schools that are closed, and in the face of a lot of other crises that we are going through.
I also know that I think in August or so that President Buhari hinted for an urgent salary review for the civil service owing to the high inflation. For me at that time, I said, okay, fine, this could be a good decision because we have high prices everywhere. But how is the government going to do that? This is a government that is borrowing already to basically on
fuel the inflationary spiral, because somebody was even questioning some of this money that is shared at the Federation account. I hope it's not the mint working over time. Okay? So if you continue appropriate time to do it in the face of the suffering. Yes, people are entitled to a wage, a living wage that should take them home. But we have to be a very bit careful. I think we should tackle some of these challenges that have generated this inflationary spiral. You know, each time we discuss the high inflation, rising, the economy that is getting worse, people talk about geopolitical circumstances, the Russian-Ukraine war, is happening in America. A good number of the things that are happening to us are a product of scoring an own goal. All right? It's an own goal. So, yes, the ones that are happening in Europe and America are
affected
true,
us, yeah.
But what of the own goal we scored? If the insurgency and the insecurity around Nigeria has been removed a little bit, most of the food we eat that comes from parts, all these northern parts, the Benue region, and we still had them, okay? We couldn't have had this drastic and astronomical rise in the price of food items. And you see that is the food sector that is even driving the
food
highest inflation rate in the country. So if we begin to remove while suffering from the Russian-Ukraine war or whatever is happening in the US or other parts of the world, we can manage the circumstance more. But for now, there is so much of an own goal. If Nigeria is a team that is being beaten by, let's say, 4 goals to 1, 2 of those goals were scored by a defender, and maybe a third one was that our goalkeeper decided to be mischievous and allowed the ball to enter the net. So that's where we are. Only 1 goal should have gone in.
Do you see any hope in sight, especially as we prepare for the campaigns? I think in the next few days, or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or thereabout. Do you see any hope in sight, really, from the front liners? Yeah. Also for the governors across, the people that will be seeking elective positions for across the state, because we also tend to focus on
the presidency.
Yes, on the presidency, forgetting that there is FAC. NNPC Limited is out now, not remitting money to Federation every month. It's every year it will come up with his audited financial statements and all of that. So how will those governors also make money? These are the conversations we should begin to get answers to now, or when the campaign starts.
I see hope in the sense that people are already suffering. Unless the message they're trying to put across is that we have not suffered enough. If somebody has sat on your back, beating you, making your life miserable and uncomfortable for the past 4, 5, 8 years, and he's coming back again, not apologizing, but promising to deepen the pain, just like in the biblical Solomon's son who said, oh, my father merely flogged you with cane, I'm going to flog you with scorpions. Then you have a right to say to your tent, O Israel, you have a right to resist and say, I'm not supporting you again. But if we continue what the street lingo of continuing our mumu show, there will be no hope. But I believe Nigerians have suffered enough. They are unhappy, they are angry, they are poor, they are starving. But if they decide to prove some of us wrong or prove themselves wrong by going with the oppressors, good luck. That's it.
Okay, I think we'll just have to leave it there, because I'm being forced to ask that this administration, of course, a lot of people will say so many economic indices is not looking good for this administration at all. But this administration will also say we've done some things right.
Yeah. Do
you see anything right in just 15 seconds from this administration?
Well, there was an attempt to build some infrastructure. Some of it is still stillborn. Okay, they are more or less being politicized. Some of the rail projects, the bridges, and some of those things. But definitely, you cannot be in power and not do anything at all. Definitely, you can't just be there and not do anything. You must do something. There is some money which was entrusted to you. You must use it. That's the bottom line.
And you must use it well.
Of course.
Responsibly. Thank you very much for being on the show today.
My pleasure.
I've been speaking with Eze Onyekbere, who is a fiscal governance expert. The core of what we've been saying is that Nigeria cannot continue like this. To all of you politicians watching, or your cronies that are watching, or your friends and families that are watching, things are falling apart and the center cannot hold, like Chinua Achebe said. We need to get it right. If not, these politicians, when they enter, no money go there. I think that's how I will leave it for now. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Nancy Najibi, the best you can be, and be that change that you want to see. Bye now.